You're listening to How to 20-something, the best podcast that helps both men and women navigate their 20s and learn how to adult across all aspects of their lives. We're going to focus on career, relationships, finances, fitness, nutrition, and all of the common challenges and obstacles a typical 20-something will face in this post-college life. I'm your host, Jess Diamond, and I am the CEO and founder of Jess Diamond Coaching, where I help young professionals get their shit together, gain their confidence, and own their life. No one prepares you for this adulting world, so allow me to help you feel like you are no longer a chicken running around with its head cut off, and that you actually know what the hell is going on and what your next step to take is. Welcome to How to 20-something. Welcome back to another episode of How to 20-something, where today's episode is about the job market and to basically give it to you straight as to whether your tactic for finding jobs is shitty or if the job market out there is shitty. And honestly, it's a bit of both. Get ready because I'm going to be hitting you with statistics, reality, and what you can do about it, because if you believe you're screwed when finding a full-time job, you're going to be screwed. And I'm also going to elaborate on that in a couple minutes too. But statistically speaking, there has been a 29% drop in global job entries since January of 2024. This is a statistic coming from the World Economic Forum in September of 2025. And as of April of this year, entry-level job postings made up just 38.6% of all postings in March, which is down from 44% in 2023. And this is coming from a ZipRecruiter report and further explained in a Fortune article. I know, you're probably starting to tune out with these numbers, so let me break it all down for you. AI is the massive driver behind all of these drops. I know, surprise, surprise, because it is capable of doing more entry-level jobs, and why would a company pay to train someone who will make mistakes when they can use technology to do the same job, have no mistakes, and it's free? Or at a cheaper cost than an employee with benefits and 401k matching and all of the other things. I don't agree with this tactic, solely because there is so much value in training an eager, bright-eyed, and bushy-tailed fresh college grad so that they can gain experience, understand company culture, and grow their career. But all C-suite execs really think about in this economy is profit. Or if it's not C-suite execs, it's the person who founded the company and is funding the company. They don't care about little 22, 23-year-old college grads trying to find their way in the real world. So not only are entry-level job opportunities on a decline, there are also more applicants entering the job market than the market can keep up with, as every graduation that happens at the end of every semester. It's not just come May, come June, it's all throughout the year. There's summer semester, fall, spring, all of it. Not to mention that the process your parents used to land their jobs is totally irrelevant to what works now, which is also why you're feeling frustrated that nothing seems to be working. But it's not that nothing is working, it's that your way of trying to find a job isn't working and the world isn't working. I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again, but mass applying online does not work for 95% of you. Even more so now than when I was 22, because you have AI being the first point of contact to eat up your resume and spit it back out. If you want to take the online application approach and put up a battle with AI, then you're going to want to alter every resume you submit to include the keywords in the job posting and keep your formatting clean so AI actually reads it. So, yes, the numbers that I've said so far are real, and they're not pretty. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It is exceptionally harder to land a job out of school than it ever has been, and until AI creates new job opportunities, we're stuck in this lull of hell. You're not alone in your frustrations, but you're also not going about things the right way, which is why I said earlier, if you believe you're screwed, you're screwed. It's like when Henry Ford said, whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. Because these statistics only tell you half the story. The other half is your approach and expectations around the jobs that are available to you and what you believe. I've learned that my clients and their parents will view the current job market in one of two ways. The first group is convinced the market is the problem and come from a why bother attitude, as in why bother applying when you're not even going to hear back or land the job? It's just a waste of time. We have to do a lot of coaching around this mindset until they reach a point where they shift into the second group. The second group has decided the market is hard and they're going to figure things out anyways. And guess what? The mindset of the second group is who ends up landing the job in a seemingly scarce market. I will say that landing a job in your field of choice or your dream job is more unlikely in today's world than in previous generations, and your best bet of increasing that likelihood of happening comes from having an internship while you were in college to create that bridge. And even that's not guaranteed. So let's start with changing your expectations as to what your first full-time job will look like. For one, the pay is going to be shit for a vast majority of you. I'm seeing entry-level jobs that my clients are landing ranging between $40,000 and $50,000 a year. It's not a lot, especially for the rising cost of living. And then I always mentally prepare them as best as I can that their first paycheck is going to be an eye-opener with how much is going to go to taxes. So you're not even making that $40,000 to $50,000. You're bringing home a lot less, and it'll leave you feeling pretty trapped in terms of spending your entire week in an office setting and barely reaping the rewards of it to live your life outside of it. Secondly, your first job will most likely have nothing or very little to do with what you went to school for. It doesn't mean your degree was a waste, and it doesn't mean you'll never be able to follow a path you originally planned to set out on. I want you to think of your first job as getting your foot in the door to the corporate world and know that you can transition to something that is more in line with your degree later, if that's even what you want at that point. This job is a stepping stone that can come in the form of freelance work, entrepreneurship, trades, or even a full-time, seemingly random entry-level job. Brace yourself, because I have more statistics on this specifically. As of this year, nearly 38% of recent grads are considering their own business, 32.5% are looking at gig work, 28% are exploring freelance, and 11% are entering the trades. What this means is the traditional ladder is less linear, where the old model was graduate, find a job in your field, and climb the corporate ladder. This new ladder has no set path. It's not straightforward and varies from person to person and industry to industry, and that still does not mean it's impossible to find a job that you don't hate. So let's shift into what you should be doing differently as a Gen Zer attempting to enter the workforce and who has realized by now that submitting applications online and waiting for an email of acceptance is not a job search tactic. It's a wish. Companies that are hiring right now are not finding their next hire through a stack of online applications. In fact, you can almost bet on AI swallowing your resume whole and never letting it see the light of day. Hiring happens through word of mouth. It doesn't matter if you're not the most qualified. If you have some kind of source to push your resume through the system and get in the hands of a real person, then you have a much higher probability of landing that job over the person whose resume is more qualified. Besides, most jobs aren't even on job posting sites. My case in point is one of my clients got her job by having her resume referred by 2 people for the same position, and after she interviewed, they posted the job and told her to apply for it so she shows up in the system. Meaning, anyone else who came across that listing was automatically not going to get that job because it was already filled by my client before it was even accessible to the general public. Are you listening to what I'm saying? That's why online applications are bullshit and a waste of time for 95% of you. And don't go thinking that you're the 5% because, honey, you're just not that special. I'll even add to that the second job I got out of school had something similar happen. I saw that my LinkedIn was viewed by a senior designer. I sent her a message asking if they were hiring. Mind you, there was no job listed for an entry-level designer. She said they were, and to send her my resume and portfolio, and 2 weeks later, I started working there. We live in a who-you-know world. And if you don't know anyone yet, then you are wasting your time with online applications when you should be out in the world and meeting people. Whether that's intentional coffee chats, going to an event that is somewhat related to your industry, reaching out to someone on LinkedIn who has the job you want and asking them how they got there, telling everyone in your life what you're looking for because they might be able to introduce you to someone. And listen, if you think it's uncomfortable or awkward reaching out for help, whether that's through messaging a stranger on LinkedIn or asking people to keep an ear out for you, then let me reframe some things for you. I'll start with the messaging a stranger part. 1, the worst thing that happens is they don't answer or they say no. And 2, annoying them is your own story. Because what if it's actually a compliment to reach out to someone? Because you're basically telling them you admire them and their journey, that you think what they did with their life is cool and you want to be cool too. When it comes to asking for help, you're not burdensome. People love helping other people. It gives them a sense of pride and purpose when they are able to successfully do so. And you never know who someone knows, so you might as well give it a try. The last part of this reaching out fear that I do want to touch on is if roles were reversed. If someone you know asked you for help, or a stranger messaged you asking about your career path, would you find it weird and essentially a turnoff? Or would you feel a little flattered that they came to you, whether you can actually help them or not? This is something that I see happen a bit more. And recently, I met a woman who volunteered at TEDx Sugar Creek Women. And she told me she really wants to give a TEDx talk and then asked me how I managed to land my spot, which you can check the show notes right now because the link to my TEDx talk is there. It is live. At least I'm hoping so. Not hoping so. I'm not releasing this episode until it is live. So you go check those show notes, watch the TED Talk, and then come on back to this podcast episode. But with this woman that I was talking to, I was happy to tell her everything on how I got my spot. She then told me she's actually tried asking other people for some help or what they did, and they turned it into a transaction where she would need to pay them for their information, which is quite shitty. And trust me, you don't want those kinds of people in your network anyways. And now that I'm planning on giving keynotes, I'm not even a little hesitant to ask fellow keynote speakers how they've gotten on their stages. I also receive a mix of, oh, this is how I did it, and you need to pay me for my info as to how I did it. As a Gen Zer looking for help landing an entry-level job, I would be very surprised if you came across someone in your industry who would charge you in exchange for help. Unless it's their actual business to help people with the help you're looking for, like career coaches or industry-specific coaches, for example, who get paid to look and fix people's resumes, amongst other things. But the bottom line to everything I'm saying is you need to change your strategy to help yourself stand out from all of the other people you're competing against for the same entry-level position. I go through all of this in a lot more depth as to how you can do that if you scroll back to episode 116 on the 5 steps I would take to land a full-time job. This episode was to answer the question as to whether Gen Z is actually screwed in this job market or not. And my honest answer is no. Is the market harder than ever to get your foot in the door? Yes. But just because something is harder than it has been does not mean there is nothing you can do about it. The word screwed implies there is nothing you can do about it. The people you see getting jobs right now have connections, are flexible about what their first job after graduation looks like, are getting creative in how they market themselves to the job market, and or have decided that the market is hard, but possibilities are everywhere. As long as you don't wait for the market to fix itself and go about searching for a job in the same way your parents did, then congratulations, you are not screwed. In fact, 77% of last year's graduates found something within the first 3 months of graduation, a percentage that has actually increased from the year before. Right now, roles are changing, systems are changing, technology is changing, so your job search process needs to change with it. There are jobs out there. Half of this is your mindset, and half of this is your strategy. And if you would like help with either one, well, that's what I'm here for. All you have to do is schedule a day and time to talk with me by clicking the link in the show notes where it says, "Let's chat," right after you watch my TEDx talk. You are not special. You're just adulting. Otherwise, this does conclude another episode of How to 20-something. So if you liked what you heard, if you're currently fighting for your life in the job market or know someone who is, then please share this episode, post it on your story, send it to a friend, give me a 5-star rating. Just do something to help me help reach all of the 20-somethings navigating the most confusing decade of our lives. And as always, I can't wait to be in your headphones again next week with another brand new episode.